Cheers.
Hello and welcome back to SuperCoach Edge Ball. This is mini ep number 2, covering the official practice matches from Friday night. As always, I'm joined by Liam. Are you ready to tackle another 3 matches?
I'm ready and raring to go. I reckon this episode might as well be sponsored by Boost. There's so many juicy players we're set to talk about today.
Oh, very good.
Janine Alice, get on the phone.
Yeah, exactly right. Actually, it could be like the Boost segment where we're talking about trade boosts.
Oh, yes, good point.
We could get sponsored by Boost the chocolate bar and Boost juice.
Yeah, both of them. Come on, guys, hit us up. You know what? Hit us up on our social pages. Don't forget, you can follow us across both, all of them, for recent news and updates, and obviously to check out the vodcast form of this podcast if you are listening through Spotify, Apple Music, whatever it is.
Yep.
Google, whatever you want to use. You can find us on YouTube at SuperCoach Edge. Just search that and you'll find us. And don't forget to like and subscribe. On Twitter, you find us at @SuperCoach_Edge, Damon at DamonJ88, myself at @LiamEvans_95, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you search SuperCoach Edge, you'll find us there and you'll get all the latest news heading into the season.
Absolutely. And if you're tuning into this episode and you're thinking, well, where are the reviews on the Thursday games? Well, you've skipped an episode, so go back and watch that on YouTube or listen to it alternatively on whatever platform you listen to our podcasts on. But yes, this is the second mini ep. Also, a reminder about our SuperCoach Edge group for those that haven't joined already. There is a SuperCoach Championship ring up for grabs for the leader come the end of the season, and the code to join that is 249149. And also a quick reminder as well about our Patreon for 2023. We do have a top tier which does feature a cash league, as well as a lower tier which there is crossover in terms of the extra content and little what do we call them, juicy extras available across both, and it does include entry into our special SuperCoach Edge Discord group setup for Patreon only members, where there'll be a deliciously special I've said that normally instead of under the Bruce name.
Yeah,
that's just kind of weird. Not deliciously special prize at the that's better. Prize at the end of the SuperCoach Rainbow, as we're calling it, to the highest ranked player come the end of the season. You also get access to an exclusive private room on our SuperCoach Edge Discord, where you can send us questions throughout the season, ask us questions about trades, what you should do, if you need help with that, or you can even just alternatively tell us what we should be doing if we're doing stuff wrong. So yeah, that's just turning the tables on us. And you get early access to our podcast, and you will earn yourself a shout out on the episode following you signing up to let everyone know how much of a legend you are for supporting us. So access to the lower tier is $5.50 per month and $15 per month for the highest tier, which does feature that exclusive SuperCoach Edge Cash League. So for more info, head to www.patreon.com/SuperCoach Edge.
Love it. And as we mentioned in the last step, there's plenty of reasons for us all to celebrate, because we did smash out the goal of 500 subs on YouTube. And that means it's time for yet another giveaway. We just love giving things away. It's like, I get why Oprah does it. Oprah does it.
How fun is it?
Such a fun feeling.
Look under your seats. Maybe that's how we should announce the winners, the 5 winners of this.
That's it. And it's I'm quite glad you mentioned the Patreon, because that's what we're giving away. We're giving away 5 free season-long entries into our Patreon. To enter, all you have to do is comment your answer to, is this the year of Errol Goulden? Discuss. You can also go back. you know what? And if you can include some song lyrics in there.
Oh, yes.
I don't know, not extra points, but just you'll make me happy. You can also go back to mini app number 1 and answer the question we posed there for an extra entry, and listen to the next step, because you'll have another chance to enter. So you have 3 opportunities to enter, 3 times the chance of winning. So tune in for next week's episode to find out who it is that wins, if it's you or 4 others, which means there's still time to make yourself eligible to win. All you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel and comment. If you think this is the year of Errol Goulden. But let's jump in.
Yep, we'll delve into whether or not we think it's the year of Errol Goulden, and spoiler alert, we think it is. So now with all that housekeeping done, let's get straight into it.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yes, let's kick off with St Kilda versus Essendon, RC Park. I'm glad I didn't. You know what? I think last time I said, damn, I didn't get to go. But you know what? I'm glad I didn't now that I think about it. Actually would have been the worst drive home. But let's jump in straight into St Kilda. Rowan Marshall, 506.5k, ruck eligible, 155, top scorer for the day. Lock him in. He should be in your ruck line. We've seen what he can do as a solo ruck, and it looks like, it doesn't even look like, we just know it's the role he's going to play now. They didn't have Heath. He'll probably get a chop out, but he's not going to, I don't think he'll be swapped into the forward line. It'll just really be just resting forward if he needs it. But it should also be noted last year, I think, and this is a positive for Marshall. Last year, the Dons were the team with the lowest opposition rucks SuperCoach scores. So opposition rucks had their averaged lower than their average scored lower than their average against the Dons. So the fact that Rowan Marshall scored 155 is really good sign. And it looks set to finish the year as a top 2 ruck. And that is why he is in my R2 spot and has not left all season.
Yeah, we do ease in mine as well. Goes without saying, but we'll say it. But there is reason to think that a lot of us are talking about him being the R2. Could he be the R1? That's the one thing. A lot of people are thinking maybe he's just fooling us all, and he's actually the R1 all along. What a plot twist! That'd be good. But yeah, I agree. He is a.
There we go.
Bravo and props.
He is a lock.
For those of you listening to the podcast, you don't get these visual gags. I'm just holding a lock that was sitting on my desk that I just realised that I could use as a prop. So there we go. That is him, Rowan Marshall. And it's actually a broken lock. I don't know the combination to it, which is probably apt because I don't want to know the combination to Rowan Marshall to unlock it because he's just too good. Too good.
Yes, agree entirely.
But let's move on to the next player, and it is Nasiah Wanganeen Millera, and he's priced at 103.2k, selectable as a midfielder, and he scored an impressive 91, and he's a bit of a sneaky option that has piqued some interest after a switch to almost the quarterback role, you call it. It should be noted, however, that he took 50% of kick-ins, so yeah, the Dons did kick those 14 behind, so yeah, he's not going to be taking as that many kick-ins on every given week. So, yeah, probably boost his score, overinflates it, you'd say. So,
yeah,
he's awkwardly priced, and he is a mid-only option, so probably should be on the avoid list at this stage, but you'd think he should get some handy DPP early in the season if his role in the backline persists.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's a pick for mine. I think I've seen a few people sort of raise him because they've seen his score, seen his increase in output, but I think there's a few caveats there, and just the mid-only eligibility is a bit of a concern for mine. Much like, I guess, a Whitfield, who's also mid-eligible only.
Good point.
But moving on, it's to Jack Steele, 604.4k, mid-eligible, score of just 84. And it is a bit of a concern, I reckon, to see a score of just 84, but is it? I don't know. Yeah. I'm going full. I've done circles on this. I've gone around and around and around. So I think I'm back on the positive side. But if they did dominate the contested possession, the Saints, in this game, I think it was plus 30. They had 17 Steele had 17 possessions and 9 tackles, which is always pleasing to see. I'm hoping it's just a case of taking it easy in a preseason game. It is eerily similar to the 2022 preseason game against the Dons, again, where he only scored 89 off the back of 20 disposals. Did start slow in round 1 in 2022, and then he averaged 125 in his next 6 games. So I will say, I think the Ross Lyon game plan will suit him a bit slower.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to hurt him. I think he's 27 off memory, so prime time for a mid. I think he had good time on ground off memory as well.
Yep.
And attended like all but one CBA, I think, for the Saints. So I do think he is a good pick based off that. And good stat there that you picked up there, Damon, on his game in the 2022 preseason against the Dons. Either way, I think it's one you have to think, have a little bit more of a think about heading into round one than I think we did originally. Like, he was pretty much a lock in my side, and now he's not in my side currently. But the more I think about it, the more likely he's actually going to make his way back in.
Yeah, I mean, that stat was, I must admit, for the first time this preseason, took him out of my team, and I replaced him with Jack McRae, who has always been vying for that same spot. And then I looked at the price point, the differential is like 30K, and I'm like, I probably need that 30K to use elsewhere for another player that I'm looking at. And yeah, for me, I was like, well, eerily similar again to last year. That was just, I was looking at comparing stats and stuff. Oh, how did he go in the preseason last year? And yeah, just pure chance, played the Dons again, and virtually had an almost identical scoring output. For the weekend as well, he had the most CBAs of any midfielder with 88%. And yeah, for me, I mean, it is a little bit of a scare, but if that's the lowest, like as we've been talking about even last year, the fact that he gets the 9 tackles provides that high floor, which if his high floor is an 84, if that's a down week for him, I'm not too displeased, I think. I mean, sure, he should be scoring more than that at that price point, but I think that's probably not going to be the norm.
Yeah, I agree. It was also a very low CBA game, only the 17 for the game. That was the lowest of the round, for want of a better term.
Oh, wow, okay. Good pickup.
Very low, 17, compared to, I guess, the next lowest was 23. So, 6 under. That was Geelong and Brisbane. So definitely something just to consider there.
Yep. I like it. But yeah, he's back in my side now. But again, yeah, it's a flip of the coin, I think. Just between him and McRae, I wish I could have both, but I'm going to have to choose between both of them. And I've always been a big fan, no secret, like you, Liam, as well, with Jackie Steele. So happy enough with him and not too concerned. And I guess, there are corrections in the early part of the season. So if he does start super slow in his first 2 games, maybe panic stations if there's a change in his game style off the back of what Ross is implementing at the Saints, then you can always trade him to another player. So keeping that in mind. But let's move on to another player who scored quite well for his price point, and it is Jack Bytel at 158.6K as a midfielder, and he scored 75. So he's an option in the midfield that's popped up after Winhager fractured his hand early in the game, but is apparently a chance to play round 1. So he took over the tagging role, playing 59% CBAs with that hard tag on Parrish. What did you make of that, Liam? Is there anything that stood out there in terms of...
I think... look, I'm going to be honest. Parrish, I think, struggles with the tag, as we know. I also look at Parrish and I kind of just don't think he tried particularly hard. I think it wasn't a good enough effort on his part either. So I think it's made his score look a lot worse in terms of Parrish. Oh, I know he had decent CBAs. I thought he might have had low CBAs, but 65%. But yeah, not... I had Parrish in my side. I've now taken Parrish out because I'm just a bit concerned about him with some early tags coming up for the Dons, but we'll chat about that a little bit later.
And just with Bytel, just to round it out. So, you think that he should continue on with this role through the season, considering that he did do a decent enough job. Has been in and out of the team for the Saints, but it's pleasing to see that he was able to negate the opposition score and scored decently whilst doing so. So, yeah, probably one to consider if you need of another mid option. There's so many out there to choose from, which makes his price point a little bit more awkward. But yeah, for me, I am opting for another player.
Yep, likewise. I think and this is going to go for, again, as I think what I said in the last episode, and I'll say it again now, and I'll say it again in the next episode, any rookie we talk about today, it's really dependent on them obviously being picked. And you've got to wait till next Thursday to find that, or the first Thursday before to find out, and the Friday when the full teams are released, just to make sure that you're not missing anyone. So anything we do say is a caveat, has that caveat, I guess, in terms of rookies. I'm probably going to bypass him at this stage as well. Windhager being back probably puts a little bit of a dampener on him. Moving on to Jack Sinclair, 626.2k, defensive eligible, a score of 59. Little bit of concern there for someone that's over 600k. He did take 6 kick-ins, which was the second for the Saints, but again, we have to take those points with a grain of salt. Teams won't be as inaccurate, you'd hope, as the Dons were this week, in every week that the Saints play. I don't think he'll have a bad year. I just think you can probably net him a little bit cheaper, a little bit later in the season. Like, I don't think I'm too concerned about picking him. I think, as we kind of said, Stewart and Doherty, a little bit more sure options. Sicily probably at around the same price. I'd probably prefer him over a Sinclair at this stage.
Yep, totally agree there. Can't justify forking out the full amount required for an uber premium.
And I guess we don't really know what Ross Lyon's game plan will do to his scoring as well, longer term.
Yep, absolutely agree there. The next player is a highly sought after rookie / cash cow, and it is Mateus Philippou. He's priced at 166.8k as a DPP midfielder forward, and he scored 53, not too bad. Kicked a snag and had 15 disposals, and he should be a lock for round 1 after Billings especially went down with injury. He'll be up and down with his scoring, no doubt about it. So if you can plant him on the pine, that's what we'd advise. And even if you have another player that isn't playing that you can potentially screen his score with, as we say, to loop his score in, that's even better. But did have the 5 clangers and went at 47% disposal efficiency. So if you can clean that up, should have some decent scoring potential. So I liked what I saw. At the moment, I don't know if I can fit him in, but I do like him of the higher price players, just because he has that super job security at the moment, looks like. Agreed.
I didn't mind what I saw. Again, I can't remember if he's on my side. I've played around with the rookies a little bit, so I'm kind of trying to, again, what I like to do is pay for them. I have the highest priced rookies that I can, so that I always know that if I can downgrade to a Philippou. When I say that, I don't mean when the season starts. I just mean while I'm doing sort of mock teams at this stage.
Yeah.
Once I get close to the season, I'll have the rookies that I really do want. But I can't remember if I've got him in at this stage or not, but I wouldn't mind getting him in if I can. Moving on to another rookie, 102.4k, bargain basement price. Haven't seen many of these this year. Forward eligible. It is Anthony Camentini, the SPP pickup for the Saints. Finished the game with 11 disposals, but went at just 36% disposal efficiency, which is a big worry. He is obviously a bargain basement price, though. So if he is named and has job security, which, I mean, he should have the Saints, considering he's a key forward and they are absolutely bereft of key forwards at the moment. He won't need a big average to make 150k, but he is still a key position player, so it's gonna be tough. Look out for a round 1 debut, I think, but I'm gonna say buyer beware. He should make cash, but again, it's just hard. I mean, he will make cash, you'd assume, but it's just gonna be it'll be a slow burn. It'll be a slow burn, I'd expect, even at that low price.
One to watch, no doubt about it. Let's move on to your mob in the Dons. And to top the list, we have Jordan Ridley, familiar name for both of us over the years. And he's priced at 504.3k, and he scored 128, most pleasingly. So look to be back to his old role from 2021. Solid in defence, though consider that was against the Saints forward line, which is absolutely decimated at the moment, but pleasing signs given his role. Had 27 disposals and went at 89%, which was pleasing to see. A team high 12 marks, 89% disposal efficiency, and only took 2 kick-ins. So didn't really need the kick-ins to form a bulk of his score. So it does suggest that potentially if he does get more kick-ins, that his scoring ceiling could even be more elevated. But the fact that the one thing I loved about Ridley back in the day, when I did have him, pre-2022, 2021, backwards from there, was the fact that he's such a good user of the footy. Really good, can pick up bulk possessions. So I'll probably pass this on to you, Liam. Like, are there any other points that you want to make about him? Like, for me, just the fact that it looks as though he's back to that old role, which I was looking for under Scott. Amazing. And it's an easy, like we mentioned in the previous episode, an easy switch from Nick Dacos to him. And I was looking for someone around about that price point to be saving us on money and be a bit of a bolter, which he looks to be potentially.
What I like is that we've seen him do it before. Like, we know when he had that role, we know what he scored. He did it for, I think, 2 seasons and then dropped off last year off memory. And one thing I will say is last season, he did have a good preseason score. Not quite the 128. I think it was about 105 or 110 or something. So a little bit lower. And I think I got seduced. And look, as a season-long owner of the Riddler in 2022, I'm ready to be hurt again. He's in my side. But I do look at I look at it and I kind of say, I don't think the role was quite right last year. I think I picked him thinking Jake Kelly was coming in. He'll take a bit more of a lockdown role, letting Ridley play a bit more freely. I don't think that kind of eventuated. I think Kelly kind of took the small. Redmond came along, which his scoring has been a bit off. So that's quite interesting as well. But I think from training and what I've heard of training, Ridley is really the one that they're looking to sort of get the ball into the hands of and play almost as that switch player. So he's going to get a lot of the ball into his hands. I think with the rise of, or the rise, I want to say, but the BZT coming through and actually being able to take key defenders properly, that lets Ridley be freed up, because Laverde takes the second key forward, and then Ridley can really be a bit more of that floating intercept mark player, and then the one that has high disposal efficiency, so he's going to score well, but they can get the ball into his hands. So I'm a big fan. I want him in my side.
Yep, and just you mentioned there of BZT, that isn't a brand of like TMZ. It's not a competitor. That is Brandon Zerk Thatcher. So for those of you out there thinking, what the hell did he mention? Yeah, that's BZT, who youngster. But I've always wondered about him. Whereabouts is he at? So he's actually helped out the
definitely
the structure.
He was one that I always. Sorry, just going to delve into Essendon talk now. I always wondered whether he'd come along, and then last year really showed quite a lot. Like, I think he had a really good year in the VFL, and then last year had another good year in the VFL, and then came in at senior level and actually played quite well, which is really good. And it's sort of, it'll free Ridley up, I think, quite a lot. So it should be good for season 2023 for him. He's in my side, and I don't think he's going to move. Moving on, another interesting pick and a bit of a smoky here, and it is Will Setterfield from your mob, or used to be from your mob, 348.2k, mid-eligible, and scored 119. A bit of a smoky here, and off memory, is still a pod. Just 2.2% of teams, but the role looks good. You discussed in the last episode, and this has piqued my interest, that he has the scoring potential when he does play as an inside mid, and looking at the CBAs, I can't see him dropping off massively. He had 8 with 47%, did play a little bit less in the midfield as the game sort of went on. They kind of brought Perkins in, played a bit more there. Caldwell went down with an injury. Sounds like he'll be okay though. But I think Setters really, what he did in the midfield, I think was really quite strong. Really aided them. So, and 119 is a good score, a very good score. And he's one that I think I really want to pick. It's the 2% of teams. Him only being in 2% of teams that concerns me. He's an easy drop down to a hopper if you don't start a hopper, but he's shown a bit more than hopper in the preseason in terms of scoring. So could be interesting pick, I want to say.
Yes. Very
Did also positively lead the Dons in way of contested possessions with 14 as well. So good scoring potential there.
Yeah, he's always been a good player. That's been a strength of his game, in and under. Not played as a wingman like Carlton did, stupidly. Still annoys me because back in, it was that year that I was rolling through some of the stats, one of the previous episodes in 2020, and he was able to score points. Like his points per minute was actually quite good. He was averaging points per minute around about 1.4, which is really good. And when he was played in that engine room role, like there was that season there. Go back and have a look if you just for easy consumption. But 2020, 86, 88, 97, 102, 98, 102, 82, 141, like, and it goes on. And that I don't know what it was off the back of that season, but David Teague and the other coaching staff there absolutely stuffed him up again the next year, put him on the wing, tried to put him in defence. Just so dumb. So I've seen enough as a Carlton supporter, and I have confidence in him. If he is played in the engine room, I would be very confident in selecting him. But the only thing going against that is the fact that he'd be taking the spot of Hopper. And I don't know who else I could afford to get rid of to try and fit him in. Callahan, maybe, who's in my side at the moment. I'd need to find some 60K or thereabouts, 80K. So it's kind of hard to try and fit him in. So it's an awkward price point that's really going to turn me away, I think, unfortunately. But yeah, if Hopper doesn't come on, or if Hopper gets injured, which could happen, given his injury history, he is one that I will be jumping across to, no doubt about it. But I can see merit, especially being that pod. Could give you a nice little jump, especially if Hopper turns to shit and he doesn't get injured, but just doesn't fulfill his scoring potential.
Yeah. And even if Setterfield just averages 10, 20 points, 10 points more than him, it is probably worth it week to week for the price difference. I don't think it's massive between the two of them. It's just, I guess the 2.2% of teams, that's a bit of a concern because it could backfire on you quite severely as well. But I guess it is an easy trade down if you, after two games, you're not happy with him, down to a Hopper if you don't start both.
Yeah, he's priced at the average of 63.3, and going by the notion that every 10 points above your starting average is 50K, that's sort of the loose sums. So if he averages 20 points above his starting average and averages 83.3 early on over the first couple of months, he'll make 100K. So you could almost use him, like as I was saying with Hopper, as a playing cash cow, or that stepping stone to a genuine primo. So I wouldn't see him as a season-long keeper. No, definitely. Not. But yeah, he's
If he had forward status, status, I would be picking him 100%.
Yep.
It's just he doesn't. Yeah.
As a Dons man, just quickly, because I'm aware that the time's getting away from us, but it is a good discussion point. But as a Dons man, do you see him playing or being considered in their best 20, not 23, not 22 plus the sub? Can you see him as their best 22 player in the engine room as it exists at the moment? I
didn't before. I'll admit I didn't until either of the practice matches. I thought I'd rather give Caldwell the opportunity. But I have to say, since both of the practice matches, I changed my mind quite strongly. Like, I think he should be starting mid.
I like it. There you go. That's the verdict. That's the juror. The judge, juror, and executioner. Maybe not the executioner. Let's move on to the next guy, and it is Zachy Merritt. 617.5K, scored 112 and looked good, and took 59% off CBAs. Only had the 23 touches, which I think is on the lower side for him. As we know, he's just an absolute accumulator at best, but still scored quite decently nonetheless. And we've noted in past episodes that Zeret has a tendency to have a slow start and build his average through the back end of the season. This is potentially what could happen again this year, so keep that in mind. Though with the captaincy, will he try and maybe push a little bit harder earlier to set the standard maybe and just switch things up? Maybe he starts well and then tapers off towards the end of the year, just switches it up a bit, reversal.
It is, so just on that, it is eerily similar every year. It's like after the buys, he picks up massively. It's just every year.
Just the secret tonic that he takes, like pickle juice, whatever it is to bottle it and distribute it and sell it at a high price point. But anyway, who knows if he's that way inclined. But worries would be about the round one clash with the Hawks and a McGuinness tag potentially. Yeah. So does he go to Merritt or Parrish, who we know can't really deal with the tag? And then also the round three clash with the Saints is another sort of potential tag coming from Windhager or Bytel. So interesting.
Yeah. I'm inclined not to start him personally at that price. 4.7% of teams only. So low, again, pod sort of option. It's a no from me at this stage.
Yep.
Probably I think you've got better options like a Steele or likewise. Moving on, we got Sam Draper, 398.7k, ruck eligible, scored an 80. Role is definitely there, but there is a big risk to bringing him in as your R2. Took 54 ruck contests, 63% for the Dons, but it's his around the ground work that I think really needs to improve. I think he had the same hit outs as Marshall, but got monstered around the ground, which is his issue. As a Don supporter, I really do hope it is his breakout year, but I think we're potentially a year away from that.
He's interesting, very interesting, because he'd save you a whole lot of money, but I'm of the same way inclined. I'm not going to delve into that. Let's move on to a potential juicy cash cow in the way of Elwyn Davey Jr. He's priced at 117.3k as a mid-forward, which I didn't even know was the case. I always just assumed he was a forward, but yeah, that DPP adds another string to the bow. Scored 67 and looked lively early in the game with 7 touches in the first quarter alone and a goal. But he did, however, fall away as the match progressed, much like the Dons. But early signs are there, and I didn't even consider him up until the weekend at all, I must admit, and looked at other rookies ahead of him. But I loved what I saw from him. I mean, it goes without saying, he's obviously plays like his dad, but very silky, that evasiveness, and just the, I don't know, the brains, just the footy brain that he has for such a young player is really impressive. So does he stick around? I mean, early games he may play, but longer term, does he fill a role?
I think so. I think from the looks of it, the Dons want to play 3 talls, 3 smalls in the forward line. He's not traditionally a small forward as well, which is interesting. I think a lot of people think he is. He's actually a midfielder. So who sort of plays a little bit forward. I think he'll play majority forward, to be perfectly honest. I don't think he'll be getting any mid-time or along the wing. But I do think he sticks around because I think they do want to play the 3 smalls, and I think it'll be Menzies, who we'll talk about in a second, Davey, and then I really want it to be Tipper, but I think he maybe doesn't doesn't play round 1. I think he might get a few games in the VFL and then come in.
I like it. Enough for me. Bang. He is, for me, almost a lock.
Ooh.
For those of you listening to the podcast, you have no idea what I'm holding up. It is a lock.
But yes. Now let's move on to the next guy on the list, and it is Jai Menzies, 154.2k, forward eligible. 62 was his score on the weekend. He didn't manage a goal, but was a positive there in that his score is on the back of just manic pressure, laying a team high 6 tackles and having 26 pressure acts. And that's the positive. I think he only kicked a behind off memory. But didn't score a goal. He scored 3 in the previous practice match. So I think he's a decent option who should have a decent floor on the basis that he is really bringing that forward pressure. So interesting one that I hadn't really considered until this week as well. Higher price is a little bit awkward, so maybe Davey's a better option.
Like it, yeah, awkward price point. I did think of him because I do like the fact that, he's not contingent upon kicking goals to really score half decently as a cash cow. But I will probably look elsewhere. Moving on to this guy who is a favourite of yours, Liam. It is Darcy Parish. He's priced at 610.8k and was tagged very, very hard, which is a concern going into round 1 and round 3 with potential tags incoming, like we mentioned earlier, but also didn't really look to get out of first gear. So makes you wonder, like a Jack Steele, did he just take it easy? Did he not just worry about it? Like it's not the hard stuff. Don't worry, Bruce Free, all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, probably not too concerning, considering he played well the week before. He did play low time on ground as well, just 69%, which was the second lowest of any mid. So not complete panic stations just yet, but with some early tag risks, like I mentioned, could be one to snag later in the season if he does potentially drop in cash. But I will mention as well, because someone pointed this out on Twitter, I can't remember who it is, and they spoke about it on Moriera's Magic's podcast as well, with Xavier Ellis, obviously a former player of the Hawks and West Coast. And it was the fact that he was pictured in the rooms post-game with ice on his calf. So Moriera's Magic, Selby did say, oh, that's just a standard thing, isn't it? And Xavier Ellis said, no, I can tell you firsthand, it's not a standard thing. Usually you ice up your hammy, your quads, all those sort of things as well, just to flush out any excess lactic acid. But when it comes to your calf, traditionally you don't. But he's had some calf issues. Is that right, in the past?
Had calf issues last year, and I'm pretty certain this preseason as well.
So that's a little bit of a worry, but maybe
it could be a worry. It could be precautionary.
Precautionary, yeah.
Just knowing that he has had those issues. I'm not he was in my side. I'm not starting him. He was sort of mooted as another option with Steele. I'm not starting him. There's a few schools of thought. I think it's a contract year for him as well, so it could go big. If we want to, look at it that way. But again, I wonder whether the tag sort of started and he just kind of went, oh, well, don't need to try too hard. What's the point of pushing through? It's a practice game. And that's why because he did look good in the first game. But again, I don't think he looked great this game. One, the tag, and two, I think he just didn't put in enough effort, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried. I'm not starting him. He's only in, I think, 2% of teams. So again, really big pod. I'd be mindful of starting him at this stage.
Totally agree there.
Yeah, let's move on to Sydney versus Carlton, your mob, at Blackstone International Sports Park. What a name for a stadium, if we can call it a stadium. But first up, and it's probably the name on everyone's lips, it is Errol Goulden, 472 mid-forward, 190 points. What a game. What a man.
What a man indeed. Remember when he burst on the scene?
Yes.
Burst on the scene, and Liam, you've done a little bit of a we did put out a bit of a meme on Errol to the soundtrack of Oh Errol, and you've said here, what have you said? A bit of a twist on the lyrics.
Yes, and I would do anything just to get him in. I would
exactly, and to be like him as well.
And to be like him. I mean, just scoring 190 SuperCoach points. Yes, please. He's in my side. And I think we'll touch on this. I'm sure you'll touch on this in a second, Damon. But we did flag him late last season, round 23 to be exact. And I think I actually said that he probably wasn't going to make it into my side, but I really wanted to pick him. But I'm glad now I've got justification for picking him, so I don't look like an absolute crazy person.
Before you continue on though, let's just play this little soundbite here, the little snippet on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube, because this is from round 23 and we were crystal balling it. It was the segment where we're looking forward to this year as to potential breakout contenders. And when you mentioned Errol Goulden's name, I was like, I don't know about that. But just that's the sort of insight that you get from,
crystal ball.
You're kind of, well, it was the crystal ball. Yes, it was, but it was a bit of your magic as well. It was a bit of your magic, and that's the insights that you provide alongside me. You're the yin to my yang. So those are the sort of insights that I love as well. So let's just throw to this little snippet here.
I don't necessarily have him as a value option. It's probably more a breakout option, and it is Errol Goulden from the Swans. I'm assuming he's going to hold his forward status. I know he's playing a little bit more on a wing, but I think he should hopefully maintain his forward status, I hope. So he went from 2021 debut season average of 76.4, which is insane for not that crazy, but yeah, decent. He had some very big scores. But in 2022, he actually increased that average by just over 9 points, almost 10 points. So if he could do that again, that gets him up to from 85 to around 95, which could have him locked in as a bit of a
top six forward.
Forward. So one to consider. I'd probably want to see a little bit more from him, but just hopefully there's a bit of a trend in that upwards direction. So that would be very nice.
So there we go, Liam. So you've said set in stone. You looked deep into the crystal ball, the patented crystal ball. SuperCoach Edge brand, of course, if you look underneath. Not yet on sale, just beta tested. But you've said ahead of anyone, I mean, there's a few people in the preseason early on, other podcasts have said, Errol Goulden. But last year.
I think the Phantom has been big on him as well.
Yeah, actually, yes, probably should say that, but not last year. You have been the first. I will stand by that. I will stand by that.
I hope it comes off. I'm still a bit worried here.
But if this comes off, if he ends up being, which at this stage, if he can make, I mean, he's not going to score 190 every week, but if he can break into the top 8 forwards, top 6 forwards as a starting forward in your team, this is going to be one of the biggest calls in terms of foresight I've ever seen in my time in SuperCoach. And I've been in SuperCoach for a long while. I'm a bloody wizard. I've been around the traps. Let's just say that, and part of the furniture. So yeah, that's a big call by me, but a big call by you. And geez, it could be warranted.
Hopefully it comes off. He did have a massive score, and I think there's a few people. We'll talk about this as we go, but a massive SuperCoach score in the preseason with 45 touches, 3 goals, and 18 CBAs, which was absolutely mammoth. We do have to temper our expectations, as Mills did miss. But he did have, so he had 70.4% CBAs in the week before where Mills did play. And he had, what was it? Let me get the exact number. 69%. So he actually had very much the same CBAs between the 2 games. Now, even if Mills comes in, like looking at the split of CBAs, you had Parker 22, Goulden 18, Rowbottom 17, Warner 17, as your sort of core. Mills is going to come into that. If he takes some off Goulden, I think it's still going to be okay. I still think he's going to score well enough. We saw that he had some really good scores last year. We do also have to consider that Jared McVeigh has said that he has the ability to play forward, mid and wing. So we could see some variability. But when he's been playing like he did yesterday, you'd expect him to continue to get, sorry, when I say yesterday, I wrote this the day after. But when he did play on that, like that on Friday, you'd expect him to continue to get some CBAs and hopefully find an average around 100 for the season. And that'll get him into the top 8 forwards easily. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility. I think, what did we say? He averaged 85 last year. If you can get that up to 95, is definitely in the top 8, I'd say. And if you get up to 100, top 6 is definitely not out of the realms of possibility. If you are picking him though at his price, he's a keeper. So you got to kind of factor that in. But I'm all for it. I think with the extra trades, it's actually okay to take a risk on someone like a Goulden. I don't mind it.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as well. I have him now taking the place of Cogs.
Same.
I think you've mentioned as well in our discussions that of the guys to really that you could sacrifice, between the existing primos up forward, Dunkley, Rosie, even Taranto, if you count him as a primo for this year, you'd say that Cogs in that foursome is probably the one that you could do without. Cogs hasn't been the most durable over the few seasons, so count that as something that you should be factoring in. May get injured. There's variability there in terms of how he is going to perform without the likes of Taranto in the midfield, Hopper being there. I mean, Hopper's been injured in recent times, but is he going to put an impact on him? Is he going to cop a tag from time to time? Who knows? Like, there is a little bit of a question mark there, even though earlier signs suggest that he should be all right because he will be being played predominantly as a midfielder as opposed to half forward like he was under Leon Cameron. But yeah, I think of those guys, for me, I think Cogs is the one that you can easily do without and maybe find it easier to try and get him in later in the year.
Yeah, agreed entirely.
Well, that's pretty much sorted. He's in my team. He's in your team.
Yep. I think he's a decent pick. I really do.
Yep.
I think he's one to take a risk on. I think it is worth it, and I think his obviously his ownership is rising as we speak. So it's becoming less and less of a risky pick.
He's actually now 30% ownership, and Canelio by comparison is 18%. So it looks as though that drop for Cogs has been it's going the way of Goulden. So he's rising and Cogs is dropping. So a lot of people are doing just that. They're dropping Cogs for Goulden. And I think you almost need to do that. You need to take risks on, value players, guys that you think are going to increase their average. And I mean, you're saving 70, 80 odd K by going Cogs down to Goulden to really help strengthen other parts of your side. So I like it. Like it. But let's move on to the next guy of discussion, and it is Chad Warner. He's priced at 532.7k, and he only scored an 88. I say only because there is a bit of a higher expectation on this guy now. He should be taking the next step. And yeah, we saw what he was able to produce at the back end of last year, especially in the grand final as well. Really was one of the few Swans that stood up and scored half decently. But, the Chad, having said that, is hopefully on the way to his breakout year. But I think at his price now, there are better options in your side. Just stacked up against Goulden. He's 60.7k more expensive than Goulden. So by that comparison, I would be giving him a miss and opting for Goulden if you have Warner in your side.
Yeah, and even then, it's like Green. Like if you have Warner, you don't have Green. Like get Green in. Even Mitchell, I'd say to an extent, if he can average 100, not too bad. Better than I think what Warner will probably produce. You might get some really good scores with Warner, but I think you'll also get some lower scores.
Yep.
Moving on to rookie ruckman Lachlan McAndrew, 123.9 ruck forward, 32. Really quite a high ownership considering I don't think he's a lock in any way, especially with both Laddams and McLean looking good to go for the season proper now. They both played in the match. And McAndrew, you'd expect, should be down on the list. Score of just 32 from 24% of ruck contests suggests he probably doesn't have the scoring potential we need or the job security either. I think he's definitely one to give a miss at this stage.
Yeah, and Laddams actually looked good to his credit as well, who scored 91 himself. So, yeah, I think a lot of people that have already selected McAndrew expecting that he's going to be rucking in round one will be due for a bit of a shock, I think, the team selection in Thursday week's time. So, yeah, keep that in mind for those of you having him at R3 because it could be a waste. But let's move on to Carlton's side of the coin. And first up, Sam Doherty, priced at 603.6k, smashed out a 152 and put himself firmly back in the headlights for me, alongside Tom Stewart that I mentioned in the last episode. And as we saw on Twitter, at Austin Skilton, or he called Sam Doherty Sam Lockety, so that's what we're going to be renaming him here, Sam Lockety. Lock him in. Looked great off halfback, and we know the scoring history is there. Still snuck in some CBAs with 9 to the tune of which was 35%, while taking kickouts also. So a two-pronged arsenal really there for Dockers. Just a 1-2 punch. Love that. Kickouts, he took 3, which was 43%. And off the back of that, you'd think bulk points incoming. And as we saw there, 152 bulk points were incoming. So he's locked. He's locked and loaded in my side now, as he is yours, Liam, as you mentioned to me off air. D1, he's my D1 as well. He's taken Delockety. Oh,
God, I've lost the plot.
We've lost it. Delockety.
You should definitely Lockety him in.
Yeah.
I'm all for this pick. As you said, three kick-ins, got some CBAs, which we were all worried about. Yeah, I like it. I like the pick quite a lot.
I like the boy.
Yeah, I think he's definitely coming over Stewart, and I think it's just purely, I think he'll have more consistency in his scoring than I think Stewart will. I think Stewart will be a bit more high ceiling and potentially a lower floor, but not a low floor, just a lower floor than what Doherty will have. But I don't think Doherty will necessarily have the massive heights that Stewart gets to.
Yeah, and just in terms of stats as well, to round it out, to give you that full overview. So Dockers had 34 disposals and most pleasingly 11 marks, which was, I think it was like 5 more than the next best. So he's just running rampant, taking marks galore, switching of play. He's there in defence, off the half-back line, and getting those little pinch hits in the midfield as well. They're still there. So I'm there with him. You're there with him. We're lining up in the centre line alongside him. Round 1 against the Tigs. We're there.
Yep,
just give him a pat on the backside and just give him a bit of encouragement.
Off he goes. Yeah, as we said.
And then we'll get tackled off the turf at the MCG.
Yeah.
But it'll be worth it.
Well, yeah, okay.
Pitch invasion, yeah.
Pitch invasion. That's what we want. Alex Chincotta.
I've lost
Next
it.
option. All right, the next three are all rookies, and I'm gonna go through. We'll go through them, but I'm gonna lean on you a bit here, Damon, because I think as the Blues man, you should be able to give us a bit more insight. But Alex Chincotta, 102.4k, defensive midfield eligible, 70 was his score. Ended with a pretty good score considering he did start the game a little bit slower. I remember watching the scores and I was like, oh, he's going all right. And then I think I saw the end and he went 70 and I was like, whoa, out of nowhere. And I thought hopefully he's played himself into a round one debut. Did have 16 disposals and pleasingly 6 tackles, which is a nice base to have. Bargain basement price. If he's named round one at his price point, he should make some good cash quickly. Do we think he gets a round one debut, Damon?
Just quickly mindful of the time, but we spoke of both of him and Cowan in the last week's episode, and I'm quickly going to just say he's a 50-50. I don't think he's put his name forward any further than what he did in last week's unofficial practice. The week before that unofficial practice game. And yeah, Cowan, which you'll speak of shortly, I think he's a 50-50. Actually, you know what? I will give you a little bit of something. I'll say he's a 45% chance, and I'm going to say Lockie Cowan's a 55% chance.
I feel like you're right there.
So I'll let you speak to Cowan, but I won't go into too much just yet. But yeah, next guy up, we've got Hollands as well. Yeah.
Do you think he's an option as well for a debut?
Who's at Hollands?
Yeah.
He's a high price rookie, 162.3k. And he scored 59, which I thought was quite nice for him. 17 disposals, 1 tackle, and took 6 marks. Looked decent, but at that price point, I'm not certain that he's going to make a debut. Probably less so than Chincotta and Cowan. But without Walsh being there is a chance that he could make his debut. I wasn't overly impressed with Lockie O'Brien, I will say that. Hollands is playing on the opposite wing. So if Lockie O'Brien is left out of the team, there's more reason for Hollands to play because he will be taking O'Brien's place as well. Akers, as well, as we know, playing through the wing. So I think Hollands could potentially take O'Brien's spot in round one, but I wouldn't be certain of that. But I did like what I saw. That's for sure.
Cool. Easy. And then, as you mentioned, Lockie Cowan, the other one, 117.3k, defensive eligible only, 59. He looked decent enough. It's a decent replacement for the injured Williams. I think he was the one that we all kind of expected. He had 10 disposals at 90%, which was nice. Threw his body into contests, kicked it behind, and laid 4 tackles. As you sort of said, I think Cowan, based on what you said, Cowan looks like he's probably more likely to be the goer than Chincotta, which, I mean, at 117.3k is still something we need in a decent lower priced rookie.
Yeah, probably we're doing pretty well in terms of having enough depth. We've still got Sam Durden as well, who we picked up as a DPP player.
Yeah, good pick, yeah.
Oh, sorry, DPP. What is it, SSP player?
Yeah.
Last year. And I think for both of these guys to put their hand up so early bodes well for them. Either one will make a debut. The other one will potentially put their hand up at some stage or another. So I think we're in a good spot. So one at least will be a downgrade option come at some stage during the year. But yeah, I was super impressed. Have a look at Carlton's Twitter page as well. They did put up a bit of a highlights package for those of you who missed the game, and just his ability to throw himself into contest. He's got the mature body. He was named he won the award for the best player in the under-18 champs, or the NAB, whatever they're calling it nowadays. So yeah, he's one that's really put his hand up, and I'm super impressed. And I think he's a better chance to make his debut. Either way, it would be nice for Chincotta to make his debut because he is priced 15k or thereabouts cheaper. But Lockie Cowan, 117.3k, he's going to make bulk cash. And I think just to make mention as well, Lockie Plowman is one guy who has been a bit of a whipping boy, but didn't really overly impress either. So he could potentially find himself out of the side, and that bodes well for both Cowan and Chincotta as well. So keep that in mind.
Good to know. Let's move on to the next game, the last game on the Friday. and that is West Coast versus Adelaide at Mineral Resources Park. And we'll jump in with Ruben Ginbey, 171.3k, defensive midfield eligible, score of 99.
Yeah.
Love it. 99 from a rookie, with have 12 CBAs, which was 43% for the West Coast Eagles. And he looks to be a great option for your defense with some handy DPP to boot. He had 17 disposals, 10 of which were contested possessions, laid 5 tackles, which will help him create a very good floor for himself. And even more impressive, he did it with just 56% time on ground. So if we extrapolate that out, he's better than Goulden.
Yeah, that's very true.
No, we don't say that. It's not true. But get him in. He looks to be a very good option for your defensive line. It comes at a bit of a premium, but I think that's what we're going to see across the rookies, I guess, for this early stage of the season.
Yep, in 58% of teams at the moment, so don't second guess yourself. Get him in. That's, as we like to say, that risk is mitigated by that higher ownership.
Exactly.
So get him in. You don't want to be left wasting a trade in order to get him in. So don't stuff around. Start with him. Lock and load. The next guy we have is Elliot Yeo, and he's priced at 337k as a defender, obviously, and he scored not too bad, 78. Decent enough, but nothing mind-blowing, but should make some decent cash at that price point. Only had 67% time on ground, so keep that in mind, and that's likely due to the case that he was being managed ahead of the season proper. And he'll likely be managed like this in the early rounds, you'd think, when the whips are cracking, but should build to more time on ground and get a higher scoring base. Another positive is the fact that he had a role in the Eagles at midfield with 12 CBAs, and looks a good mid-price option for your defense. And as we said just before, the risk is mitigated with that high ownership, which at the moment is 50%, so owned smack bang by half the competition.
Yep. He's in my side. I don't think he'll leave it. I think with those 12 CBAs, it's a good base for him.
Yep.
I think talking about the next guy, Dom Sheed, I'm not as big on him. 332k midfield eligible, 73. I think it comes down to the fact that there's probably better options at his price point. Like Hopper, Setterfield, if you want to take the risk like me. But he's another popular mid-priced option. He was also managed for minutes like Yo, having just the 75% time on ground. And again, we'd expect that to build. But likewise, to Yo as well, he had a good role in the middle with 17 CBAs, which was 61% for the Eagles, which actually left him in the top 3, which is a nice role. I think at this stage, I'm probably giving him a miss. Though, as I said, I think Hopper it's an awkward price to have too many players in at that price point.
Totally agree. And Setterfield as well. Setterfield is now in that calculation, like you've been saying. So interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's move on to the next guy, and it is Oscar Allen, priced at 210.2k. And he scored a 52 off the back of 1 goal and 3 behind. So his scoring was hampered by his inaccuracy, and his disposal efficiency of just 50% let him down. Also, will benefit from Darling being back in the side, hopefully in round 1, but there are probably better options than Allen at his price in the forward line, coming at that higher price point. Will struggle for supply also, keep in mind, from the Eagles at midfielders at times in games when the whips are cracking, when they're up against quality opposition, which could hurt his cash generation. So if he has, if he's averaging 52 and then he has a down game of 25, he's going to find it hard to really kickstart that cash generation again, being at that higher price point. So for me, even though I did factor him into my side very, very early on, I am now looking elsewhere well and truly.
Yep, likewise. I suppose you could say he might get some ruck sort of a time, more so in the forward line, just as when the ball's in the forward line. But looking at this on the weekend, he only had 4 ruck contests, which was 5%. So probably not enough to warrant that being part of his scoring base. I'm probably going to give him a miss at this stage. I don't think it's worth his higher price point at this stage. Moving on to Campbell Chesser, 123.9k, defensive midfield eligible. 34 was his score. Not a standout display by any means by the highly touted midfielder. He had just 9 disposals, went at 67%, laid 2 tackles, but he did struggle for game time with just 61%. He only had the 3 CBAs, which was the equal lowest for the Eagles. So the role might not be there. It's hard to say to pick him if he is named in round 1. I think if he is named round 1, I don't mind the pick of it, picking him because he's highly touted. But it's a tough one just having a look at this exposed form, I guess.
Yeah, it is definitely tough. I think, as you mentioned, what's going for him is the fact that, they really rate him. So you'd think if he doesn't debut in round 1, it's probably due to the fact that his conditioning isn't up to scratch, has been managed over the preseason so far. So you'd think that he should make his debut in the early rounds, round 2, 3, 4 onwards. And I mean, it's not the end of the world if he doesn't play round 1. Stick him on your bench. When West Coast playing in the early rounds, you could potentially use him as a bit of a loophole option and loop in the score of another rookie off the bench. So always keep that in mind as a potential strategy. But
that's a very good point. Yeah, and likewise, just really quickly, Elijah Hewitt played 148.8, came mid, again highly touted, only scored the 2, came on late. As an avoid at this stage seems unlikely to be named in round 1, came on very late, and at this higher price point, there are better options with seemingly better job security. Probably one to target later in the season, potentially, when he does look to break in, but at this stage, just, I think, rule a line through him. I don't think he's looking like he's going to get that round 1 debut.
Yeah, hopefully a trade down option later in the season. But let's move to the Crows, and no secret as to who tops the scoring list here. It is Rory Squared, Rory Laird, as we like to call him. 703.9, super pricey, but for good reason, obviously. And he solidified that 151 as to why he's so highly priced. Absolutely picked up where he left off in 2022 and looks set for a massive 2023. He'll set you back pretty penny, but you're paying for quality here. So, Liam, lock and load.
Lock and load. Enough said. Just get him in. Like, I have to say, I wasn't sold on him at the start of the season. Like, I thought 703, I'm not paying that much for anyone. I've changed my mind. Big time. Get him in. He doesn't really, I think you have to pay up for the captaincy option that you get with him week in, week out. Yeah. And I think that's the benefit you're going to get. Sometimes you just have to pay for quality and not necessarily just look for value all the time. Moving on to Jordan Dawson, same obviously Crows, 603.1k, defensive eligible, 105 was his score, and the new captain showed that his scoring ability playing predominantly in the back line looked good. I think lower ownership than I think I expected from what we went through, I think, in the last episode. I thought he would be a bit higher than what he was, obviously coming in below Sicily, and had 26 disposals with 23 kicks, 10 marks, and took 5 kick-ins, but he didn't lay any tackles. Dawson is another one that's a big risk for the tag. I think we've seen that in the past. Has the round 6 with against the Hawks with McGuinness. Round 9, he also has potentially a Bytel or Windhager if fit. So just beware of that.
Yep. He's definitely a solid option. But yeah, for me, I can't squeeze him in, unfortunately. He is one that I am targeting as an upgrade option. But to round us out, it is Riley O'Brien and Mr. Rob, 560.5k, and he scored 103 on the weekend. Could be a potential pod. So Rob could be a pod option for your round 1, as he took the majority of ruck contest to the tune of 63% for the Crows, with Himmelberg and Walker taking the rest. Had an average of 101.8 last year, so not too bad.
Higher than I thought. I would have thought.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Puts his hand up potentially if you're wanting a pod and Hodor and co can't get the juices flowing. Yep.
Yeah. I've toyed with him in my ruck line, I have to say.
Yep.
It's interesting. It's an interesting one that I think could be a nice pod. I don't know what his ownership is, but didn't do as badly as what I thought he did last year. 3%. So yeah, 3%. It's a risk, but you got to take a risk sometimes. Yeah, it's a pod. It's a pod option. If you like pods, not a bad one. Yeah,
I suppose the one query with him is he does have the tendency to have a bit of a dip in his scoring. Doesn't consistently score that 100 plus or 110 plus like we like to see. But Is that even a thing anymore with
the Rucks? You never know.
with the Rucks? Yeah, with Gaundy now on the same team, but
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Anyways. Yep. But anyway, Liam, that rounds us out for another action-packed mini episode, with another 30 players analysed from the 3 Friday night games. So hopefully those of you out there tuning in enjoy the deep dive that we're doing and analysis on these games.
And as always, you can keep up to date with all the news as it comes to hand. And of course, if you're keen to join in the discussion, we encourage it. We encourage you to get in contact with us. Comment below this video if you're watching us on YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And you can catch us and comment and chat to us on Twitter at @supercoach_edge, Damon at DamoJ88, myself at Liam Evans _95, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You'll find us at SuperCoach Edge.
Very nice. And what were we prompting the viewers, and also viewers, because it is a YouTube subscriber only competition in celebration of the 500 mark that we've hit? What are we getting people to comment?
Yeah, just let us know. Discuss whether this is the year of Errol Goulden or not.
Is it the year?
Is
we
it the
think
year?
it's both. Yeah, we think
I think it is.
Yep. So with that, we'll jump into the next episode. It will be out tomorrow, of course, where we are rounding out the rest of the practice games. So, Liam, I'll catch you in a moment as we record it. But the kind folk tuning in, we'll catch you tomorrow. All the best.
See you then, guys.